As you know, this is the measure of an episode, where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek proper Star Trek and not just Chicago Hope in space. I'm Jonathan.
and I'm Dr. Paul. And
Dr. Pollux.
And the criteria by which we judge these episodes. Number 1, is there science fiction in the plot? Number 2, is the science fiction novel in some way or unique? Novel or unique in some way. Number 3, is there a moral or ethical dilemma presented to the characters? And I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And this week, we lied to you. We were going to watch a TNG episode, but we couldn't remember which episode we were watching. So we pulled up the random generator again, and it gave us Deep Space Nine Life Support. Episode 13? Season 3? Yep.
That's right.
Yep, episode 13, season 3. And the blurb states, when a serious accident nearly destroys a Bajoran transport arriving at the space station, Vedic Bareil is critically injured. Now, what's nice is not only is that really the main problem in the episode, well, I guess there's the treaty.
That's the cold open.
That is the cold open, right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but that is like a major part of what happens in the episode, so, I'm willing to give them a pass, but that absolutely is just the cold open, because there's nothing in there about the treaty and the negotiations.
Well, the core of the episode is about, it's sort of, what's the name of that Greek ship where when is the ship still the ship if you've replaced all of its parts type of thing?
Yeah.
I know there's a name for that. What the hell is the name? When is a man still a man?
Right.
But just to go back for a second, it would be very funny if you watched one Deep Space Nine episode and I watched another Deep Space Nine episode and we started reviewing it. At what point would we realize that we had both watched different episodes? I would think we would get farther than you would imagine that we would.
See, and I think we would stop with the blurb.
Well, let's assume that we got past the blurb. Because you could have read that, and if I didn't have it in front of me, I would be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yep. And you know what I mean? Like, so plausibly, like how far could we get in the plot before I was like, well, I don't remember Kira doing that, but maybe I missed something.
Right. Yeah, well, I feel like they'd have to have some kind of similar start. Like if I was watching the one where Sisko was just taking a stroll on the promenade and you watched one where they were like right in the middle of a battle with the Dominion on the Defiant, like I feel like we'd pick it up pretty quick.
See, what would happen to me is I would think, oh, I must have not been paying attention in that scene. And this, like the things that you were talking about was like, oh, I must have missed that.
Right.
Because that's happened before when I know we've watched the same episode.
Well, right. And I think for us to get really far, we would have to not say where things are happening. We would just have to say, so this moment happened, and then like, because there are episodes that we do where we're jumping around all over the place. And so, you'd be like, okay, maybe I missed that part. But like if I said the episode starts off with Sisko on the promenade, you're like, it did?
Yeah. I would still be like, well, I'll take your word for it. 'Cause,
You know Star Trek better than I.
Yeah. The thing is, we could never test this. Well, maybe it'll happen. It almost happened.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it did. That's why we switched.
Yeah.
But Theseus, by the way.
Theseus, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the theme of this episode. In fact, that's the ethical. That's criteria number 3 checked off. I think.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And because the theme is, okay, at what point is he no longer this main character? Vedic, is that his name?
Bareil.
Because they keep
Vedic
taking
is the title.
Bareil. Yeah. And so they keep taking parts of him out, and they're saying, well, he's going to stop being him here in a minute. If we keep doing this,
right?
And that's kind of the theme that I'm getting from this.
Well, and it was actually supposed to be much more prevalent through the episode. Like he was going to lose portions of himself through the episode and not be stuck in the operating room. Like he would be able to go to the negotiations and he would just be less and less himself.
Right. So I guess the plot line is this guy is a negotiator. He is injured in a ship, and the Kai really needs him to do these negotiations, these peace talks with the Cardassians, and he is injured and he can no longer, like he's dead and he's alive. He's the only person that the Cardassians like. And I think the idea would have been so much better, to piggyback off what you were saying, is if he kept maybe degrading as a human in the sense, or maybe de-aging. Like he kept his mind kept getting more simple and simple and simple to the point where he was like a 5-year-old.
Right.
But he still had sort of the nugget of like, what can we glean from what he's saying as a 5-year-old to fix whatever problem with these peace talks, which eventually gets fixed anyway.
Right.
And I don't know, that would have been more interesting expression of what they're trying to do. But I don't know. I guess they didn't do that because they needed to do this misogynistic Nog Jake plot.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, we're kind of
we're jumping ahead.
We're
jumping
totally
ahead.
skimming everything. Right. I liked everything about this episode. I didn't like the episode, and I think like the sum of its parts just didn't work for me. And so, you know, I still would recommend it to people watching. But I just the two plots were so thematically different that I felt like it wasn't cut together well. Like I thought the Jake and Nog story was fine, and I thought that the Boral story was good, but just like putting the two of them together, it just did not work for me.
It felt weird.
Yeah.
It felt like one was trying to counterbalance the severity of one of the other.
Right.
And it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was like watermelon and mustard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a new TikTok challenge. So if you haven't tried it, you should.
Well, and the kicker is you have to put it on your genitals.
Okay, but here's the thing. Neither of those things are going to do anything to your genitals.
Mustard might. Mustard's got vinegar in it, man. You know?
Yeah, but unless you've got open sores, like you should be fine. So you just do this and you're like, now what?
Okay, I want you to go dump some vinegar on your genitals and tell me if I guess that's actually how they look for genital warts, I think. They dump some acetic acid on your should we do that on the podcast together?
We'll do it on the Patreon.
Good call. Good call.
That's something
only those who support us get to watch us pour vinegar on our junk.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this whole episode to me felt like a soap opera. Down to the way it looked, to the way it was shot, to the hamminess of the music.
Right.
It just kind of felt very.
On the dialogue.
We're going to shoot this.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot this in a day. You know.
Yeah.
But let's go through the plot. So it starts with a beauty shot of the promenade, which is the action scene of this episode, and it's kind of this nice little crane shot where it goes from this. Yeah.
No, go for it. It goes with the crane shot. You're getting there.
Crane shot when it goes from the top level to the bottom level, and we see Jake, and Jake has this supremely unrealistic conversation with a girl whose name I do not remember.
Lark Voorhees is her name, and you may better remember her as Lisa Turtle from Saved by the Bell.
Oh, not related to Jason Voorhees, I'm guessing.
I don't know. I didn't look at her family history.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to say yes.
It's just easier. Let's just go with that she is the what lake? Whatever.
The Voorhees Lake. Yeah.
No, this is going to bug me. What is the lake?
Flaccid?
No, I know. I'm thinking of Lake Placid, but that's the one with the crocodiles. And like I keep thinking Lake Pleasant, and that's the one in Arizona. Oh, man.
Whatever descendants of Jason Voorhees are snapping a pencil right now.
It says Jason Lake Pleasant. That can't be right. No.
Yeah, it might be Lake Pleasant. This is the wrong, you're
Crystal
asking,
Lake. There we go.
Yep.
Jason Lake
Knew her in
Pleasant.
high school
Why did
as
that
well.
even come up?
Anyway, having a
having a relation to a mass murderer.
They're having this totally unrealistic conversation where, I mean, did conversations go like this for you in high school?
Where the girl asked me out? Oh, man, I can't tell you the number. Wait, yes, I can. 0.
Not only asking him out, but like begging to go out with him. It's like, and Jake's playing it great though, right? Like,
yeah.
Props to Jake.
Yeah.
Because he's like playing it off. He's like, well, I kind of got something to do. She's like, oh, are you going to cancel? It's like, no, not going to cancel. I might cancel if I feel like it, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's it. Like, totally as a guy, he would not have picked up on that. She's like, well, are you going to cancel? He'd be like, no, why would I cancel? Like, I'm hanging out with my best friend.
Yeah, that's mean.
Right? Because I'm not a jerk. Apparently you are. But hey, I'll see you later.
Also, I don't murder people, nor is anyone in my family.
Just saying.
So they have that conversation, and that is, of course, a seed to, which was verbatim, by the way. And then there's the emergency on the ship. And that's when that's where the blurb ends, is at the end of this.
Yep.
And
but I gotta say, so she walked away and then security came running out. I actually thought that she was gonna be like the object in the episode that they were trying, like turns out that she was either a shapeshifter or a mass murderer like her brother. But because she walked away and then the security came out and ran off in the direction she went. And so I expected them to, say like to Jake, "Are you okay? Like, where did she go?"
That would have been cool. Right. I would have liked that better. Did you see a young girl who seems a little overconfident and maybe asking men out?
Asking guys out that are twice her size? Like, that was the other thing, too. The camera going over his shoulder. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's funny.
So they run up to the ship.
The guy is injured. And I feel like this is Kira's boyfriend who has been terribly injured.
It is.
I feel like they change him every time. It might be the same character. It just seems like the hot Bajoran guy.
Short hair, strong jawline, ridges on his nose. Yeah.
Earring.
Right.
But one earring. Like a cool earring.
How dangly is that earring? How many inches does he have on that earring?
Well, it's an extension of the Bajoran nuts.
Right.
And so the more dangly, and that's very attractive to Bajoran women, is the more dangly the nuts, the better. It's a fertility sign.
Right. Of course. The ears, man. Ears and fertility in Star Trek. What is it?
It is very strange. Okay, so they have this problem where
Which
Bashir
I just realized for a future comment, like coming up in this episode.
Wait, what?
Just keep going. When we get to another Jake and Nog moment, I got to talk about what Nog said.
Oh, I know. Where once again, a Ferengi starts jerking off in front of somebody else. And okay, anyway. So it turns out that this guy, Vedic dies. And then Bashir brings him back to life. And Bashir basically tells him, look, your organs are going to shut down because of what I had to do to you to bring you back to life. And you're going to become a zombie, and you might kill everybody, so we have to give you this medication, or we have to put you back in stasis. And he's like, well, I need to finish this. The Kai needs me. The Bajoran race needs me. And so do what you have to do. He sort of is going to martyr himself, or at least put him into danger.
Right.
And so that's sort of what is the kickoff to the whole thematic stuff of this episode. And it's kind of comes to light that, well, first of all, the Kai was like, why was he injured and not me? It could have been sabotage. We don't know. That goes away. I thought it was going to be like a sabotage type of episode.
Right.
It wasn't. So anyway, it just feels very saccharine, like you might die if you do this. And he's like, no, I must live for the sake. And it's just, the music is very overly
people, right?
mawkish.
Yeah.
And overly sentimental with like oboe solos.
Right.
I was just like, oh God, what is it? And then it cuts from that to the date with Nog.
Mm-hmm. Well, not yet. Remember, Jake is talking to Nog about his date, and Nog says, so hook me up and all that kind of thing. And
he's a dude bro. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Nog is a total dude bro.
And then he says, like, going back to your comment, I may even wash my ears. Like, what guy, when they're going on a date, like, I may even wash my nuts. Like,
well, it would be a nice thing to do. Yeah.
Well, first off, that should be a daily habit. And second off, based on that comment, that's very presumptuous of how the date's going to go.
Well, we'll learn why he thinks that. He thinks it's the sure thing because he's a dude bro. Right. But my question is, did he want to wash his ears because it's like for him so he can look good? Or is he washing them because someone might be doing something to them later?
Oh, I think that's absolutely what it is. Based on how the date goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is actually turning out to be a much more interesting plot line than the whole Vedic plot line to me. In retrospect, I kind of wish they leaned into this whole thing a little bit more. But anyway, yeah. So what we glean from this scene, Nog is a dude bro and wants to catch some skirts.
Right.
Chase some skirt. You're a skirt chaser?
Yeah.
Is that what you are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all a bit on the... Okay, so anyway, Bashir gives the drug to the guy. His organs are shutting down. He replaces them with new organs. And he's still kind of sick. And that's happening. And Bashir confronts the Kai and says, look, I know why you're doing this. You're doing this because you can't finish this peace talk without this guy. And even if this peace talk goes badly or anything, you don't have a escape man. What is it?
It's a scapegoat, but
escape man.
Well, but originally, he said, like, I understand that he knows how to do all this stuff, but you need to tell him that you don't. And through this conversation, that's where he picks up that she needs somebody as her fall guy if it doesn't go well. And for me personally, like, I was actually kind of surprised, given that it was Kai Wynn, that they didn't have any more suspicion that she did sabotage and make sure that he was going to die. Because, like they even said at the beginning, Cisco said, like, I'm surprised that you are helping Bareil with these negotiations. Like, you didn't seem to want this kind of peace with Cardassia at all. And so it made sense to me that she would try to kill him. Yeah, like, and so I was surprised that they didn't do anything more with that either.
I mean, in every episode that we've watched so far that she's been in, she has not been a good person.
Right.
It seems as though she's operating under her to what makes her look the best or for her own purposes and not for the betterment of Bajorans. That's my impression of her at this point.
For watching this out of order, I'm glad that you picked up on that so well.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the point of her character. It must be at this point. But anyway, yeah. So that's what's happening with Bashir, and I think everybody's on Bashir's side at this point. Nobody ever makes the argument that he should die. He's doing the right thing. Yes, right. It's sad he's going to die, but there are figures like this throughout history who choose for death if it means that, much like Spock, the greater of the many outweigh the better of the few. Better of the many outweigh the better of the few. We'll clean it up in post.
Okay, sounds good.
Nobody came to that argument. She made that argument, but she's already kind of a bad person in everybody's eyes, and so she's not the person for that. Someone needs to, like Cisco or somebody says, I understand why he says that. That didn't really happen. So that's kind of what we look for in our ethical dilemmas, that there is an argument on both sides that is plausible and understandable.
Right.
And then we have the date with Dude Bro Nog and Jake. And it's pretty on the nose, I have to say. I wished that Nog's behavior was a little bit more understated with that he was more dismissive and not just so outwardly slave, like, oh, women are slaves and they have to go do these things because I said so.
Like, okay, yeah, so he just kind of ignored her rather than actually belittled and condescended her?
No, I mean, there's somewhere in between those two things. I think that he was outwardly, like, almost like he hates women, like he was misogynistic.
Right.
And I would have preferred it that it was just a little bit less, I know what you're trying to say. Let's bring it down a notch. You know what I mean? Let's make it a little bit more subtextual. But I will say that if a female heard, any alien female who wasn't a Ferengi, heard of a blind date they were being set up on with a Ferengi, I can't imagine that date ever happening.
Right.
If this is truly the culture of Ferengi and the Ferengi women consent to this type of treatment, that they're okay with it, I don't know why they would, but it is possible that, I mean, that's the whole point of this plot line is that, hey, and that's the conversation that Jake and Nog later have is that, hey, we're different, you and me. We have different cultures, and regardless of whether you think my culture is bad, we're never going to get along in this, so let's just avoid those those mismatches and be friends. And I don't know what to say to that. I don't, because you could say that a culture that chooses to belittle and repress women, that just because it's in their culture doesn't make it right.
Right.
And I don't know if that was the point of this plotline, if that's what they were trying to say.
Ooh, no, I would disagree. I would not say that's what they were trying to say.
What were they trying to say then?
I don't know, but I don't think that was the message that they were trying to convey, because otherwise Nog would have had a realization that, like, yes, his culture was condescending and misogynistic, and he didn't. Like he even said, like, there was even more that I wanted to do that I didn't do because I was trying not to upset you.
Yeah, I guess they make that point where Nog says, look, I was going to start pissing on her,
right,
but I didn't because I felt like that would not be appropriate for you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that resolution.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't come down, which is what we want.
Right.
By the way, I feel like if they had come down and Nog saying, you're right, my culture is crap.
Right.
Thank you for bringing this. That would not have been satisfying for either of us.
No, not at all.
Right. So I feel like maybe they were doing the right thing in this plot line by saying, hey, there are cultures who do this, and it's part of their culture, but that doesn't mean it makes it right. But can we still be friends? I don't know what the end goal is of this plot line. But what they didn't have was the Ferengi woman's perspective.
Yeah.
There was not a Ferengi woman that Jake went to, to talk to say, is this okay with you?
Right.
Do you want this?
Yeah, but I mean, I think part of the reason is because Ferengi women are nude. And so those episodes always have to be very strategically filmed.
Right.
That actually would have been very cool to see this early on, like an actual explanation of why the females were okay with it and they didn't feel oppressed.
So actually come down on the side of, yeah, we want this. We like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, not necessarily that they want it or that they like it, but they have no, they have accepted it. Like, that's not any better. Just an explanation is, I mean, yeah, I guess why they are okay with it. Like they provide an explanation that is not Ferengi are the Ferengi culture is misogynistic and just horrible people in general. There's nothing redeeming about them, because that does come around eventually where the females do stand up for themselves.
Right. I feel like it would have been more interesting if it was something that humans could just not get over and could not let go, that they were always looking to find that the women were somehow oppressed. And in fact, they weren't. This actually truly is part of their physiology, their biology, that the way that their culture has come to be is fine with them, truly fine. And they don't do that. They use it as sort of a mouthpiece for social and cultural things,
right,
to bring that in. But it would have been interesting if the humans could not let it go, and yet it was fine to begin with.
Right. But also, if they couldn't let it go, then Jake, I think, would have had a really hard time staying friends with Nog. And ultimately, that was the point of the conflict, was for them to have a rift in their friendship and then reconcile.
Boy, they get over that pretty quick too, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, they're also teenagers. Like that conversation could have gone, dude.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But see, it would have been so much better if Nog had not been so inflammatorily dude bro a-hole.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Like and also if he hadn't been so upset with Jake either. Like, it would have been good if he had been mean to the girls and then been completely bewildered as to like why the date went wrong.
Yes. Yeah, but they didn't do that.
Nope, but they didn't.
Because they had to cut back and forth to making this Vedic guy into a Borg.
Yeah, as the space station turns.
So it turns out that he's going to die because all the things they did to him made him unstable, and it comes down to Bashir saying, or Kira asking Bashir, "Can't you replace the other side of his brain?" And it turns into such a laughable thing. It's like, do you not know how? Like, oh, you don't know that this is how it works, right? You take out somebody's brain, you put in an electronic one. It's not like just because they look like them that they're going to be the same person.
Right.
And that was the premise I didn't understand, is that it seemed like a 10-year-old's version of medical jargon. It's like, oh, we took out half his brain and put in a new one. And that's why it works now. Okay, and then we're going to fight with lasers. And I felt like the idea of like, well, can't you do the rest? Can't you take out the other side of the brain? And there wasn't sort of Bashir wasn't angry about this.
Right.
I don't know. I wanted him to be super angry, not just sad and gloomy. It's like, we told you this is going to happen. Why are you sad?
Right.
We told you he could possibly die. So the fact that you're sad now, I have no sympathy for you. I told you this is going to happen. And by the way, no, we can't just take out his brain and put in a new one.
So what I took that as to be was not actually, like, I didn't think he had half a computer brain. What I took it as is kind of like a pacemaker. Like, he had things in his brain that were allowing the synapses to continue to fire, but because it's artificial, he was losing his soul, that level of emotion.
See, what you just said did not take any longer than their explanation in the show, but was way more specific and less 10-year-old. Right. So that I would have been happy with that. But they said something to the tune of, we took out half his brain.
Yes.
And put in a computer brain.
Yes.
And Kira said, can't you do the same with the second half? And Bashir's like, he was not like looking around for candid camera, right? He was like, no, we can't. Is this, hello? Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone?
That's not a thing. Yeah. Okay, so when you were in Bajoran Academy, did you take biology of the basic
kind? Did you go to school?
Right. How do you think the body works?
No, Kira, his brain is not in his penis. I don't care what he told you.
Right. That is not the best way to communicate with him. Well, I take that back.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of took me out of it. It's like, this is not a good science fiction
wrap up,
placeholder or wrap up or whatever, however you want to kill him. And I guess, and that's the end of that's the end of the show. I will say, though, that once again, Dax is very inappropriate in her touchy-feely stuff with Bashir, because she's touchy-feely and inappropriate with someone who she's not into, but knows is into her.
Yep. Well, and I genuinely forgot until you said her name right now that she was in the episode. And I almost forgot that Cisco was in the episode until I brought him up at the beginning.
So in the beginning of the episode where he sits down with Kai and he brings her some tea and his baseball is like frame center. And it looked like he had served her his baseball as a meal.
I thought you might enjoy this.
Batter up.
So I wonder how this episode compares to the season 2 finale of TNG, where they had kind of a similar like brain thing. Like I wonder how the techno jargon works. Compares between the two.
Well, the trick is to balance the techno-babble, just terminology that means nothing, and the idea of what's happening.
Right.
Something they did not balance in this at all.
No.
Like it was unclear what was happening. I mean, they did a little bit of that with like the radiation and the way that they brought him back, but they got lazy, I guess it felt like. By the end of the episode, they just needed him to die, and they needed him to die in a way that was compatible with the plot.
Right. Well, and I love also that this episode takes place presumably over a couple days. I mean, it could also be a couple hours, but I have to believe it's a couple days given like Nog's and Jake's experience and like how long that took and all that kind of thing. Oh yeah, Cisco also had a conversation with Jake. I forgot about that too. Bashir's organ surgery. So he comes out and he's like, so we've replaced your organs with the computer, the artificial ones. Like, I love that in the future, that's how it's done. Like it's basically outpatient surgery to replace organs.
I liked that procedural stuff. I felt like that was approaching maybe the first criteria, the science fiction criteria.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of doing some fun stuff here. Where is this going to go? How is this going to express itself down the road? And I felt like it failed in that regard.
So I think maintaining a person and replacing half of their brain, even though the science aspect of it was very weak and, kind of like how you said, like it's kind of described by a 5-year-old, we replaced half his brain and that's the end of it. Like I would have liked more explanation, but the fact that that's how he was kept alive for me was sci-fi to the point that it does satisfy the first and second criteria.
So we have this battle a lot where is the science fiction somehow a stand-in for something that could happen in real life, just replaced with science fiction-y words?
Mm-hmm.
And this is approaching that for me. And because you could say, oh, we gave him a heart transplant and we gave him these drugs. And it could easily be, as you said, a Chicago Hope episode.
Right.
Or more like, what's it called? General Hospital? All my hospitals?
As the hospital turns?
Yeah. So I feel like it was so perfunctorily done,
right? In
terms of exploring the science fiction there, that it's not just they said brain transplant, so we're like, science fiction, we don't have that today. It wasn't an exploration. They just said it so they could have him be dead, then alive, then dying, and then dead again. And so I guess at a certain point it's a judgment call that we have to make.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it just felt so weak to me that it's almost not science fiction. I mean, it does take care of the ethical stuff. That was firmly there.
Right. So yeah. So just the question is, criteria 1 and 2. Well, okay. So regardless of whether or not there was sci-fi, because like we have established that the sci-fi is there. It's just we're going to discuss whether or not like it's actual sci-fi or is it magic with sci-fi terms. But is it is it a novel and unique presentation? Because, this is kind of Frankenstein to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not really that novel. We've seen many episodes of some sort of medical problem happening. It happens all the time in TNG.
Well, right. The way I'm kind of evaluating criteria too is it subverting or avoiding tropes and cliches in its sci-fi presentation or conflict? I guess I'm not sure on this one. Because it's such a standard story. He did come back to life on his own, which was kind of cool. And then they did do that sci-fi thing to bring him back to life initially. And you know what? For me, I guess we'll have to debate this if you don't agree. But that part, because that part is the crux of the episode. If he died on the table at that point, they wouldn't have an episode, and she wouldn't know what to do. It'd be a completely different episode. But they did have enough sci-fi explanation in that moment, and it was, for me, unique enough that I would justify that moment alone qualifying criteria 1 and 2.
So the second criteria of is it novel or unique? I like the idea of the Theseus's ship. Ship of Theseus.
Right.
Is Theseus a guy or a place? Or is it just the name of the ship?
It's a dude.
I've never seen that in the context of science fiction, where they're doing it with a person. At least not yet. So that, to me, is kind of novel. I guess the Borg is kind of that. But they didn't explore it. They just said, hand me the hypo spanner, and we can get it in there, and it's clear.
Just because they're not providing enough of an explanation with everything that's happening.
It wasn't an exploration,
right?
It didn't suck me in. It didn't tickle my my science fiction balls.
Okay, or your earlobes.
My earlobes, yeah. Should have said that. Damn it.
You can do it again.
No, purists on this episode, on this podcast. But we've been known, to have dissent before.
Yeah, but not on that. That's the whole point of the criteria, is that it's objective. It is binary. Whether or not we like the episode is completely our own thing. But there was nothing in this episode that I didn't like, but I didn't like the episode.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just kind of sitting on this criteria 1, criteria 2 thing. So do you feel that the Theseus ship analogy was prevalent enough in this episode that you would qualify criteria 2 as being there as yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a matter of criteria 1, whether or not the sci-fi is even there.
Yeah. And we do say it has to be intrinsic to the plot.
Right.
That it's not just somebody beamed in the background. It's oh, there it is.
Right.
It's not that. I guess the fact that they saved him by him being dead and he was in a stasis field, and there's a certain element of science fiction there that is required because he needed to be alive for the plot to happen. Although it is funny that they keep talking to a dead corpse. He's actually dead, and Bashir's just guys, he's dead. He's not going to be able to do anything.
Right. Oh, sorry. If you could really help us.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's important. It just, at this point, it feels like we're cutting off our nose to spite our face in terms of our criteria. That I didn't really like this episode either. I didn't feel like I would ever want to watch it again.
Right.
Nothing really happens that's interesting in terms of science fiction. It's yes, they're using plastic flashlights and wearing funny hats. They're wearing Oompa Loompa hats.
Right.
But it's never something
and no face masks, by the way.
Yeah, well, they don't need them. It's the future.
Right.
Maybe that's
science
fiction.
Hair, but breathing in whatever's happening around you is fine.
I like that. That's just a rule that Bashir imposes on his operating room. Everybody else just wears regular clothing.
Yeah. So while I'm thinking about this, just a little side note that somebody pointed out recently. I don't think it was you, but it might have been how open all of the medical quarters and areas are. That, if you're getting a prostate exam, you better hope that it's a slow time on the promenade.
Yeah. I get the impression, though, that things materialize as you need them, that's why there's so much room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so if you needed a private, a more secluded chamber, they would bring those things out for you.
I guess so. Yeah. I like the idea that I would think that medical technology would be just as advanced as their spacefaring technology.
Mm-hmm.
that we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what they can do medically. And the idea of what would a futuristic operating room or just a medical bay, a sick bay, what would it look like, and what kind of cool stuff could it do?
Right.
And the idea that it's empty kind of illustrates the potential there. I don't know, for me in my brain.
Okay, so there's 2 points. One where they bring him back to life, and 2 where they replace half his brain that are definitely sci-fi aspects. That's not anything that we can do in the real world. They didn't really provide any explanation for how they did it. They just said that they did it. Or like they gave him 20 cc's of clozapine or something like that to try and get his brain firing on its own again, and that's how he woke up. But they didn't say anything to provide the analogy. Like the clozapine acted as like jumper cables. For that one synapse, we were able to spread it through the rest of your brain, which actually got everything firing again, and we were able to bring you back to life. Or the other thing that I said about like replacing half your brain, kind of like how we replace an aorta with a pacemaker. Like we are artificially allowing your synapses to fire, so your brain is still working, but it can't do it on its own.
You're doing a lot of work for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't do these things. I know that I did the heavy lifting, but if they had provided any of those things, I think that we could provide a much stronger argument for it being a sci-fi episode. If they had explained how they managed to get all of his, his brain synapses firing at the beginning, rather than saying just give him this drug and it works, and talking about how they replaced his brain to help, they put in the artificial synapse firer, kind of like how a pacemaker worked, providing some kind of explanation along those lines, I feel would have had it fall into the, yes, it is a proper Star Trek episode. But without those, it's basically Spock's brain. Like they do it with magic and they just pretend it's sci-fi.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was not a carefully written episode.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And it's either all or it's nothing. So since it's not all, it's nothing.
By the way, so Jake concocts this plan with Odo, saying, I want you to arrest us both under these false claims. And so Odo does this, which seems way out of character for Odo,
right,
by the way.
Yeah.
But he does it anyway, probably because he's bored.
Right.
And he puts them in there, and then you get the impression that they're just sitting in there for a while. So Jake gets what he wants and then just doesn't do anything for an extended period of time. I expected when Nog was first put into the cell that Jake would be like, well, I think we should talk. Not wait for Nog to figure out that this is all a ruse, and then Jake saying...
Right. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, it might have been that he had that plan, because I'm sure you've done that sort of thing. You had the plan, and then when it actually comes up, you're like, so...
It sucks we're in here.
Yeah. Right. Why would he put us in here? Man.
Let us out. Oh, I know why Odo did it. So we could leave them in there all night. That's why. You want me to arrest you? This is what this is, right? He wanted to mess around a little bit.
Right.
All right. So we're no.
Yes? No. Yep. So let's see what we're watching next.
Okie dokie. Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 5, Episode 9. Season 5, Episode 9. A Matter of Time. That rhymed.
Are there any telepathic characters in it? Or
and telepathic? Both, actually. Nide. Reaching Panthara 4. After an asteroid wreaks havoc of catastrophic proportions, the Enterprise crew deals with trying to save the planet.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
I have nothing to say about that.
Right. Yep. Sounds like it's got a ticking clock. I wonder what the B plot is.
Probably nothing. It's going to be nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Good thing that's not part of our criteria then.
All right, let's go watch it.
Okay. Do we want to say anything about next week?
No, I think we should spring it on people.
All right. Well, listeners, tune in for a surprise next week.
I've been Paul.
I've been Jonathan.
And this has been
The Measure of an Episode. Oh, you didn't say it with me?